let's just move back home here, where trust and integrity of processes, people, and institutions are some of the key pillars that drive investments into economies anywhere in the world. So for Nigeria, trust and integrity of contracts and agreements in public-private sector deals are not in a very good shape. But what are the consequences of trust deficit in the world of investments, and in particular, foreign direct investment? Chatting to me on this tonight is Kunle, a public policy analyst, an expert in privatization, deal making. We thank you for coming through tonight on the show. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So what do you make of what is being referred to as a culture of unethical behavior in business practices, even in government transactions in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Bosin Omofai. Thank you very much. I think I have watched all the dramas in the last 2 weeks over petrol. And I'm happy the matter is cooling off now, because at least majors like Total, they have already now started lifting petrol from the Dangote refinery. And I think some of the nasty issues that were coming up are being calmed down now. I think the relationship between Dangote and NNPC is going to be restored to normalcy, and they will co-evolve. I believe they will co-evolve. But to go direct to the question you asked me about this unethical behavior that has become more or less a culture, I will tell you my experience because of my upbringing. I grew up with people that when we were young in secondary school, they would tell us not to use government envelope, government letterhead to write letter, private letter. Your personal letter must not be on the government letterhead, or you must not use government envelope in those days. That is how ethical those people who brought us up in the 70s were. To the extent that when I joined government with General Jembewan as the Minister of Police in 1999, General Jembewan will tell you in his office, every letter that comes to that office must be responded to. The wonderful man, General Jembewan, told us that if a person writes you a letter and say, your ministry, Mr. Minister, I saw you, you were so foolish. He said, reply him and say, thank you very much. We acknowledge your complaint about the minister. We are working hard to correct the situation. So you reply every letter. That is discipline. That is public trust. That is the office you are holding. You are holding it on behalf of the people. So now, to go back to the question you asked, the deficit of trust and integrity in public offices, in our personal life, is because the culture of impunity that has broken down systematically in the last 40 years in this country, okay, beyond 40 years, it is just getting out of hand every day. Bossing is getting so bad that if you are honest and upright, you are going to be like a fool. I have so many examples in my personal life and in my exposure in government from 1999 to 2009. 10 years exactly I spent within the corridor of power in Nigeria. And I saw that those of us who were vocal about doing things correctly, reforming things, we look very odd out. In fact, some of my colleagues are still saying, you see what we told you then, that you people cannot correct this system. So the country is carrying a big burden of dishonesty, unethical behavior, because there is no punishment. Impunity is all over the place. And our very senior people, like the legend man I just gave you an example now, General Jembewan, I'm happy he will be watching me somewhere in Lagos now. These are people whom we used to sit down exactly where I am sitting now in my office here. This place I am sitting was my office, bossing, when I was in private sector. So he used to tell me that, look, the discipline that is breaking down in this country down, we are going to have problems. And exactly we are having those problems now. So I don't know how we are going to do it. When you relate it across the sector, public sector is the engine of economic development, because the public administration of the country is supposed to administer the political economy of the country. And when you have the huge deficit of trust and confidence in that public sector, no investment can thrive.
That's where the point is.
Let's leave this foundation.
That's where the point is, because when we talk of the perception of lack of trust, if we talk about corruption perception index, which is the CPI or another. So, integrity of contracts or agreements when it comes to major investment deals, whether it's in oil and gas, infrastructure, real estate, whatever, privatization, concessioning. How did we get here when you look at certain projects like the Ajaokuta, for example, the power sector, for example, and you look at facilities that are billions of dollars sitting down, and you hear every day that certain individuals, whether they are state governors, past, present, whatever, ministers, director generals, whoever, were responsible for signing documents, whatever, that we can't get these projects on. So do you think, where is the line, the fine line, by the way? Do you think we've crossed the red line, and is it possible for us to step back from that?
We have a huge national reorientation. Thank you for the huge pack you have just unleashed on me now. It's a pity I have been on program since morning, that my brain is charged up and it needed rest. But again, you have to,
my apologies.
You have to give it. You have to pardon
apologies,
me if I cannot capture everything. But I understand what you mean. Yeah, Ajaokuta is a bad case. It was mismanaged by the public sectors also. It's the same public servant that mismanaged Ajaokuta. You talk about failed privatization, huge transactions that failed. Yes. Before I joined government in 1999, all the publicly owned companies that I was relating with as a business consultant, they were government-owned, some of them. And every time you go there to try to do some consultancy or businesses with them, everything they will tell you until they get approval from Abuja, from National. Because the chief executives of those companies in those days were appointed by government. You can, like Ajaokuta, as you have said, like Nigerian Sugar Company, Basita, like Nigerian Paper Mill, Jeba, like NAVCON, like Federal Phosphate, Kaduna. Just mention them, all the automobiles that time. Leyland, Ibadan, Volkswagen, Lagos, all of them. Any decision they were to take in those days, they must go back to government. So they were handicapped. So until President Babangida said, look, let's privatize them. Because government cannot continue to run like this. So, and then when you look at all the problems they were having, it was problem from the public service that was reflecting on those companies that were failing. So when the privatization came, the privatization was to rescue and cut the cancer of the huge amount of money that government was voting yearly to sustain those companies. So now, take Ajaokuta. Government was funding Ajaokuta up to the tune of $4.5 billion as at the time we attempted to privatize it. And it was just impossible. The blast furnace was never ignited. So this whole system that we were running up to that point of attempting to privatize them was government-driven government and enterprises. So the transition to move them away from government to private is a Herculean task. And that is still the crossroad we are now. to move all those public enterprises to private is the problem now. Now, where is the trust deficit? The trust deficit is that the public servant don't want you to take away those institutions from them. So they don't want you to privatize NITEL. They don't want you to. So the conflict, the problem, the burden of leadership today, burden of leadership today is how to get the public servant to be more proactive, more transparent, more honest, and more futuristic.
Yes.
This is where the body is for Mr. President.
All right, so the reason why we're having this conversation is because the news making rounds that the government is looking to come back into the privatization program with some concessioning and all of that. Perhaps some of the elephants in the room will be on the list, like the NNPC and others. So we're trying to understand how we should move forward from where we had been, and if we can do all of this without unethical behavior, let there be transparency, trust, integrity in all of these transactions when they are reopened again. We're going to touch base with you again. We've got to let you go at this point. Thank you very much. It's been a long day for you. Dan D. Kunle, public policy analyst and the privatization professional.
Thank you very much. Please just give me 2 minutes. I will be very happy. I will encourage the government to do this. This has been what has been in my heart. I want government to revisit privatization seriously. It is time to do that so that Dangote refinery can know that he's now on his own as private with less influence from government. Let all the refineries in Nigeria be privatized. Government can still own share there so that you will have a level playing environment. I will be very happy. I will encourage government. I will render service to government almost free of charge. I will be very happy to help them to push for this.
When you say you're going to be, there's going to be a lot of money on the table, you're sure you're going to do that free of charge. But just hold that thought there, sir, just in case there's so much money on the table and you decide to say, well, you're charging a fee.
The monetary gain in some of these things is not what preoccupies the mind of some of us. It is the transformation process that some of us are interested in.
Exactly.
The reform. Not the monetary gain.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I appreciate, and if you give me another privilege, I will come.
Yeah, you're always welcome here on the Rice News channel on this program. Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank
on
you
Rice
very
Exchange,
much.
any of our programming, this is home to you. In our office in Abuja studios. Thank you so much, Dan D. Kunle. Thank you so much. We appreciate that this evening. Thank you so much for your call.